This channel is made possible through the support of generous listeners just like you. If you would like to be a part of helping us bring our message of hope, peace, love, and spiritual truth to the world, please consider heading to experienceofthesoul.com/support, where you can join us as an ongoing patron or simply make a one-time gift. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Natural Awakenings Magazine and Zen Living Realty present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 110, Desire and the Spiritual Journey. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host and I'm here in my home studios with my producer.
Hello everybody, this is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 110 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. Hope that you are well and safe and, as always, nice and healthy.
Yeah, we're really praying for all of you, all of our listeners. We know that our world has never been in a situation like this. This is a pandemic of like mammoth proportions, and everyone I talk to from around the world seems to be equally impacted. And as difficult as that is, I think it's also brought us into the awareness in a greater way, of our interconnectedness and how we are all in this together, in fact.
Yeah, and how fast things can change. I was listening to an episode that we had recorded a while ago, and because we record ahead of time, and a lot of times kind of out of order, especially when we have guests and such. And at the time that we had recorded it, we were gobsmacked that Florida had 4,000 cases, and now we just hit our fifth straight day as of today's recording, which is going to be a couple of weeks late from when you actually listen to this, 5 straight days of 10,000 new cases for COVID and everything. And it's just how fast everything changes.
Yes, it is really amazing. I know at the beginning of all this, it was hard to imagine. And what we feel really strongly about is we want to support you. We want to lift you up. We don't want to bury our head in the sand about what's going on in the world, but what we know about our teachings and about the spiritual principles that we're, bringing to you is that this is going to help you through, this very time. So we are with you in this, and we're human beings on the journey with you. And we have so much compassion for people going through hard times and are doing our best to reach out. I mean, we were just part of a really huge outreach event at CCU, and there's always such great work there, helping people in need. And sometimes those people are from the congregation, and sometimes they're from the community at large. So we're always happy to be, a blessing in that way. And when we take food out, what I love that we do is we are also putting in prosperity thoughts. I have a deck of prosperity cards, and those go out with every meal that we're giving to people in need. So it was over, I think it was maybe it was just over 300, and it was hot meals and cold meals that we made.
Fantastic.
So
yeah.
It's really awesome to be a part of that. And, to get out a little bit and be of service. I always feel good when I'm of service to someone else. So if you haven't figured out a way to do that, if you are able to give your finances, give to organizations, that are doing the work. And if you're able to go out and be a part of it safely, which is what we were doing, social distancing, and we were wearing masks and being very careful. Boy, was that appreciated, because there are not as many services open right now.
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, Dave, are we really at show 110? Is that what you said?
Show 110. Yes.
Because that is well past the 2-year mark. I remember we were in the show. We kind of realized that.
Yeah. Our 2-year mark was last month, because we started our first show July of 2018.
Right. So, and thank you so much for everybody who has been a part of that journey. And we're so excited to be bringing on our new show, The Magnetic Voice.
Magnetic Voice will air next Saturday or this Saturday coming up.
Yep, this Saturday coming up with Monique McDonald, and she is going to have some amazing guests. I mean, the talent that she has, the healing energy that she brings, I think people will be really touched at a deep level with the work that she's doing. So today's show is
Desire and the Spiritual Journey.
Desire and the spiritual journey. And, just last week, we had a very special session with Jane Elizabeth Hart. And Jane has been so important on my journey over the years and continues to be a wonderful support for me. And she was the first person I ever heard talk about desire in the way that she does. And then I started studying the teachers of the East, Paramahansa Yogananda, Sai Baba. And then I saw the parallels in our own scriptures also where the scriptures talk about, the desires of your heart. So I want to talk today about desire in the spiritual journey and the importance of really honoring that desire, but also really understanding what I mean, when I say the word desire. And if you look at a dictionary definition, it basically says, wanting something to happen, right? I want something to happen. It can even come across as a sense of longing, something that I really want. But in the spiritual journey, usually what we're talking about when we're talking about desire in the spiritual journey is the desire to know God, the desires to know God. But well, and another way of thinking of that is the desire to awaken.
Mm.
And many people I've worked with over the years will say, yeah, I want to know God, but then their desires are not in line with, um, this idea or this request. And so it's really important to understand desire. And I want to kind of unpack it a little bit for us because nobody teaches us the importance of desire. That is not a class you can take in college. It is not a class that you would very rarely find in church. And yet, excuse me, yet it is super important on the spiritual journey and just on this journey we call life. I'm sure all of our listeners remember that when you were a youngster and you had a desire to be something when you grew up, right? Or a desire to know certain people or have certain friends. Well, what you realize is that your desires are what move you forward. Desire is what pulls you forward on the journey. Charles Fillmore said that Unity's co founder, excuse me, said, desire is the onward impulse of the ever evolving soul. The onward impulse of the ever evolving soul. What most of us fail to realize is that when we have a desire, we not only have the capacity to fulfill it, but it needs to be fulfilled if we are going to move forward on the journey. Now, excuse me, having said that, I don't mean that every desire that you ever have needs to be fulfilled because there are lower nature desires and there are higher nature desires. And so I've touched on this in different shows. And in so many of the shows, we've talked about it. We've talked about it really in the form of addiction, that you want to drink, you want to use, but we know it's not a good idea. And so we make another choice. The great psychiatrist Marion Woodman said, when we have lower desires, if we can hold that desire, without acting on that impulse, then what arises out of that, holding that, desire without acting on it, is that something new and beautiful and spiritual of a higher desire rises out of that. So, of course, this is our goal. This is our goal. And, I want to talk about this now for a number of reasons. One is I've been really following my heart's desire. Another is that in our world today, because there is so much confusion, because there is so much fear, we are moving into the lower nature desire rather than the higher nature, the higher spiritual nature, that desire that wants to awaken, that desire that wants enlightenment, that desire that wants to know God. And ultimately, what we're saying when we say all those things is, I want to desire, my desire is to awaken to my higher self. This is what I want. This is what I want to be about. I want to awaken to my higher self. So this is a very important point. So we want to become conscious in how are our desires moving us forward. Jane Elizabeth Hart says it this way: desires have an energy of their own. They compel you to complete them, they drive you, and are never ending. Each desire demands fulfillment. Well, what's so amazing about the spiritual journey is as you have these desires, because of our free will, God will help you fulfill those. And it's important for you to think over those desires super, super carefully, because you want to make sure that the thing you're manifesting is the thing that's going to move you forward on the soul's journey, acting in the best interest of your soul. This is super important for you. We all have desires of being loved. We all have desires of, uh, being able to provide for our families. But the higher desire I'm talking about is living your heart's desire, desiring spiritual awakening. This is our goal. This is our goal. So when we can move into the higher desires, what we know is the universe supports that. The universe supports that. So as we start to evolve and as we start to grow, our desires move, change, expand, and those desires draw us forward into our next evolution of being. One of my desires has always been to reach 1 million people. To reach 1 million people with my message. That is a very strong desire. I've wanted it for many years, and once I wanted it, and once I had that true desire, I couldn't unwant it. I couldn't unwant it, because desires do have an energy of their own, and that desire is what pulled me forward to create the podcast. And now I think, Dave, of all we're doing on the show, we've got something now 6 days a week, and I'm sure within the year we'll have 7 days a
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
We just had a wonderful conversation with Unity Online about bringing our show onto that platform as well. A couple of our show offerings, that is, from the
Yep.
channel.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you've, by now, it might have already started. Can we say what those are, or do we want? The daily affirmations that you guys have been hearing 5 days a week now for over a year? Unity Radio, online radio, is going to start putting them into their feed, and you'll hear them all throughout the day. And so, yeah, as well as the Authentic Spiritual Journey being that won't be broadcast live, but it will live over on Unity Radio, so you can download it on demand.
Well, and what's so amazing, they're getting 150,000 downloads a month. And so that has a potential to reach, to expand our audience, times 10. So we're really excited because the show, for what we've been able to do, the show has been so successful already. But, we love to partner with other people who are trying to expand awareness of the spiritual consciousness. We want to partner with people who are bringing truth to the world. Well, so that's how your desire brings certain opportunities into your life. That desire is pulling you forward. That the desire is the onward impulse of the ever evolving soul. That desire pulls you forward. One time I was talking to the great prosperity teacher, Edwin Gaines, and we're, good friends. We were talking recently, and I remembered how we were going over some of my goals and visions. And, I work with so many other people that I love to have people, or, I work rather helping so many people, that it's so important that I get support and reflection for my desires. And so when I was talking to her about my vision and goals for my life, she said, just remember, there's going to be things that come forward for you that you never even have time to write down. She goes, this is great, all this, writing you're doing, because you're building, you're setting up this consciousness, you're building this consciousness in the universe. And but what's going to happen is that desire in you is so strong to reach people, to partner with other people who are doing the same work, that you're just going to have opportunity. Well, that opportunity is created by my soul's desire. So I can't overstate that. And so for our listeners, what I want to encourage you to do is, um, think about, are the things you're desiring now, are they the same as when you were younger, or are they different? You know, you might write a few journal notes about that, or work on in your morning pages. Just write down a few notes like, how have my desires changed? This could be really insightful for you and your journey. And also looking at, with everything going on in the world, are you still listening to your heart's desire? And I was talking with several friends recently and colleagues, and I talk to so many people all day long that I always get some wonderful insights into what's happening, um, on a consciousness level, both regionally and also nationally. And it's been really interesting to hear people say. Some people will say, "Oh, I'm so tired of the news," and I go, "Turn it off." Turn it off. Because I say, when all you're doing is listening to bad news, you can't move forward. And they're like, "No kidding. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels." And then there are other people I talk to that say, "I have been so busy creating something new during this time." And what those people are doing, they are taking classes, they are learning new skills, they are taking time every day to listen to their heart's desire. They're taking time every day to work with their soul to help them move forward. So when we're listening to our heart's desire, which is a high desire, which is the desire to be awakened, which is the desire to know God, which is the desire virtually to know our real self, our highest self. That desire will move us forward. That desire will give us opportunity. That desire will work in the best interest of our soul, because desire is what moves us forward. Remember, it's the onward impulse of the ever evolving soul. Also, remember to, as you're looking at your desires, look at, are your desires of a lower nature? Is it about what you can get, or is it about what you are to be? A being is so much more important than the doing in life and the having. And how our culture, how the American culture works, is have, then do, then be.
Mm.
But we really need to flip that, which is be, do, have. So then whatever we have comes out of this beingness. And that beingness is centered at the level of the soul. So, of course, once we start becoming aware of our desires, we can see where we're off track. We can see where we're right on track, and then how we need to move forward. The reason I'm kind of taking this measured approach, I'm slowing down this idea of desire, is because of how important it is, and yet how little we talk about it. We talk about soul growth, but it's really desire that moves us forward to grow. That the desire is what lies behind the growth steps. I have a friend who just made a really big move across the country, and it was just this desire she could not, um, she could she couldn't not listen. In other words, she had to listen to this heart's desire. She had to follow this heart's desire. So when you start to listen to your heart's desire, you're operating from the soul, and you are acting in the best interest of your soul. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to talk about what is the most important desire to have, and we're going to talk some more about some action steps you can take on this spiritual journey. So we'll be right back after these messages.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You can learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. We'd also like to extend our special thanks to Zen Living Realty. Zen Living Realty's mission is to mindfully serve, connect, and positively impact their customers, partners, and community through their Zen approach to real estate. Their vision is to be the most trusted real estate brokerage in the Central Florida area. You can reach Zen Living Realty at zenlivingrealty.com or call 407-800-2717. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. And I hope you're enjoying this show on desire. I have to say that I love when we get feedback about our shows. And we got a request recently, and I will do a show on the chakras coming up. One was about really working with your root chakra. And I'm by no means an expert on the chakras, but what I am is a practitioner in working with the chakras for my own spiritual awakening and benefit. And I can definitely share a lot of great information about that and also give you some good tools. So thank you for that feedback we got recently.
Yeah, if you have any show topics or questions or just want to any communication, just let us know. Go head over to experienceofthesoul.com/contact. And there's a little web form you can fill out, and we would love to hear from you. We are more than happy to take your suggestions and questions.
Oh yeah, also that reminds me that one of my greatest desires, I'm so surprised at how much I love to teach online. I never dreamed that would be something that I would enjoy so much, but it's one of my heart desires. And I'm doing more of that starting in August, and then I'll be doing much more later in the fall. But this August, I'm doing 2 classes. I'm doing a Monday class and a Wednesday class, and the Monday class is to help people really live their dreams, which of course is exactly working with the idea we're talking about today about desire. And it's so amazing. We have people of all different walks of life joining us for the class. We have, a filmmaker. We have musicians. We have artists. We have people that work in the corporate world. We have people that are retired. It's the Dream Big, Live Big advanced course. And so if you've ever taken my Dream Big class, you can register for the advanced, and we kept it affordable as well. So we are looking forward to having you join us for that. And I love to do it because, again, it's living my heart's desire. So
yeah, and we'll have links to those in our show notes.
oh, yes. Good idea. Thank you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most important desire. So we're talking all about desire. We're talking about the desire to wake up. And I remember years ago when I said I wanted to know God. And I think I didn't know what I was saying because my idea of God keeps getting blown. And so does my idea of myself. And this is both a shocking, sometimes shocking part of the journey. It's also a thrilling part of the journey. And probably the most important desire, yes, is to know God, but we know God through knowing ourselves, and we know ourselves through knowing God. Because your higher self, my higher self, is God, is always connected to, a part of, enveloped with, connected to God, infilled, enfolded. And I've begun talking about this more to help us all wake up to this idea that wherever you are, God is. Not because God is all around you, but God is you. God is you. And, the one of the most famous statements, written on the temple at Delphi, know thyself, know
Yep.
thyself, know thyself. And so by those journaling pieces I was talking about before, when you start really looking at your journey from an objective point of view, and looking down on the things that you've done, looking at the things that you've desired in the past, you start to see your journey actually has a trajectory. There is a direction. Like one of the things I realized several years ago, I think I did this about 25 years ago for the first time, and I just did it a couple of years ago again. So it's a great process to do. It's where you actually chart um, your life. Basically, you chart your significant experiences. You chart your spiritual journey. How that relates, and then even traumatic experiences get listed in there. So it's literally a chronological line on the bottom, and then there's different levels as you're charting your growth. Of what you fill in. Well, as this was in my, I think it was like late 20s, maybe 30, and I was looking at my journey, and I was looking at my spiritual journey specifically. Well, the spiritual journey rather was how I was looking at my life's journey. It was through the spiritual lens, and so I started thinking of significant experiences. And I looked at my experiences, and I would see a trauma, and then I would see this big spiritual growth. And then I would see another, like a death in the family. And then I would see a big new awareness come forward. And then somebody would come into my life, and that would create a new, illumination. And so by looking at myself and my own journey, by becoming more aware of my journey, I would um, see, begin to see what my desires were and how those desires like pulled me forward. So when I was as young as 15, I went to another country to do mission work because I've always wanted to teach spiritual principle. So um, it was a different awareness of God that I have now, but that desire had always been with me. Before that, even at 8 years old, I had been called. I felt called to preach. That's pretty unusual for a young girl in the South.
Right.
So at 8, I already had a desire to preach. At 15, I was already in Brazil doing mission work. And at 15, I was also working in the church already. So you see, that desire has always been with me to teach spiritual principle. And as I grow and evolve, then so does my teaching grow and evolve. So, what are doing, all these things I'm talking about, thinking about what your desires have always been, looking back and saying, where have I been? What have I done? And you don't necessarily have to chart it out. Just thinking about your desires, how there's times where you really desired something so much and you move forward. Once you realize that was really your soul guiding your process, this helps you uncover the truth of your being. This is major soul work. This is major soul work. And you'll know if it's a strong desire of your heart, if you want to move more than you want not to move. That's how you'll know how strong your desire is. What are you willing to do to see that desire fulfilled? What are you willing to do to see that desire fulfilled? Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself. This is the most important desire. So ultimately, as you continue to do this work of desire, as you continue to look within your very own soul, what you find is that the desire of your heart has always been there. The desire has been always moving you forward, and it will continue to help you move forward and expand. This is a tremendous awareness. This will also help you begin to um, take control of the direction of your life. See, we often don't realize how much the universe loves us. I said earlier in the show that if we desire something, we move forward. If we desire something, the universe will fill it because we have free will. You've also heard me say before that the teachers of the East basically say, in some form or another, God will give you all you want till all you want is God. So when you desire to know God over everything else, you really begin to know your true self. And God will help you uncover that because that is the key to soul freedom, knowing your true self. And I got to tell you, sometimes when you're doing this soul work, you find things you don't really want to see. You know?
Yeah.
So the other thing, like when you're really listening to the desire, I've been working with several people one-on-one on a regular basis. I'm doing a lot of coaching right now with helping people, really listen to what their desires are, set those goals, and then, take action. Well, to take action means you may have to quit doing things you've been doing. You may have to leave behind ways of doing, ways of thinking, and that desire will pull you forward. Once you start listening and once you move into strong desire, there's nothing that can stand in your way. There's nothing that can stand in your way.
Yeah, it can be really tough to kind of be forced to see. It's like seeing the back of your hair.
Yeah.
It's like you don't ever see it. You feel it and you think you got it under control. Right? You brush it, you take care of it, you wash it, but you don't ever actually see it. Then you
Right.
catch yourself like a picture from the back, and you're like, oh, maybe that's not as great as I thought it was, or maybe it looks even better, or wow, it's just I don't recognize myself. I don't know.
Who is that? Yeah, yeah. That's exactly how it is. You get to know this part, and it's why it's so important to be in some kind of spiritual community as well. I mean, you know, um, to do work in a group, like I mentioned earlier that I often will talk to a teacher or friend, and anybody who knows me well knows I'm constantly working on myself because there's always plenty to do and know and discover and grow and that's important. It gets dangerous when we just are listening only to our own self and our own thoughts when we're not getting higher ideas coming in because that's what wakes up our soul. It's like yes, yes, yes. We want to wake up our soul. It's like oh yes, this is what I'm about. So often when I'm talking to people right now, because people are feeling so isolated that, they start listening to all their own thoughts instead of connecting with God through meditation and getting back on board and back, aligned with God thoughts. So it's really easy to go back into old ways of doing and being right now. So it's the other reason I'm really speaking about this. Desire. Let your desire move you forward. And remember, desire, I'm going to say it again, desire is the onward impulse of the ever evolving soul. If you're not aware of your desires, you're not moving forward. If you're not aware of your desires, you're not moving forward. It's so important to move. Our movement on the soul journey is how we evolve. Of course, there's also a divine timing for that, but your desire will let you know when is the right time. Your desire pulls you forward into your next incarnation of being. But to know what your next incarnation of being is, you have to be quiet long enough to listen. You have to listen to the desire of your heart. You have to work with your soul. And you have to even work with your thoughts to say, how am I getting in my own way? It's like if I want to reach 1 million people, but I continue to do things that don't help me do that, then what am I doing? Maybe I don't really want to reach 1 million people. If I say I love to teach online, but I'm not doing that, well, then maybe that's not really a big desire of my heart. But if it is, and I let that desire move me forward, then I know a way is going to be made for me. I know that. It's so funny. A few weeks ago, I was giving a message and I was reading from the book of Exodus. I can't remember the last time I read from the book of Exodus. And it was like, be strong, stand firm in your God. And it's like, yes, that's what we are to do. So when we are listening to that holy desire in us, we stand firm in that, and then we follow that desire to our next incarnation of being. It's time to grow. It's time to expand. It's time to move forward, but we have to listen to that soul desire to know how to move. We don't want to move out of desperation. We don't want to move out of fear. We move because we're being pulled forward into our next incarnation of being. So the question we are to be asking ourselves is, are we acting in the best interest of our soul with these desires? Are we moving forward in a way that lifts us up, that lights us up, that helps us get excited about life and the next thing we're doing? Well, this is how we know we're living our heart's desire. Years ago, I would hear people, and Dave, I don't know if you had this experience, but years ago when I was in the church and I would hear people talk about God's will, I thought there was some imaginary thing that if I could just get it right, I'd know what to do.
Right, it was some secret that I needed to divine somehow.
Hmm.
I had to work it out, and it was being withheld from me. And if only, yeah, it's like I was putting a puzzle together that I didn't know what the final picture was. I just kept mashing shapes.
Right. But with the understanding that, we're bringing to the spiritual journey,
Hmm.
the understanding is God is in you, which, you know, we're clear that we're speaking of holy desire. If your desire is to know God, and to know yourself, well, that's individualized in each person in a different way. So that's what's so amazing, Dave, that God's will for you is super different than God's will for me in terms of how I live that. Like, God's will is for me to know myself, but it's not like God's will for me and God's will for you are going to outpicture exactly the same because we're individual souls. So there's not like some will way up there that you have to, like, if you're lucky, you'll get it. It's been with you all the time already.
Right.
And it's known only to you. It's known only to me. So that's why doing the soul work is so important. Nobody can tell you what your soul journey is. In this time, I mean, I know I've said this several times, but this time we're in of COVID-19 is such a time of growth and evolution, and it's such a time of awakening. It's so important that we choose well now what we're doing, and that we realize that we're never going back to the world as it was. We never are. And that we're in denial if we think we are. So we got to stand firm with our God. We've got to get with God. We've got to get quiet and do some soul work so that we know what will be next for us. Because if we're letting all the outer stuff dictate how we feel, oh my goodness, that we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble emotionally, psychically, spiritually. We can't let what's happening in the world dictate how we feel. Of course, we're impacted, but we want to be able to so know what's ours to do and stand with our God, even if it doesn't look like it makes sense to others, and still move forward on the journey. And I haven't said much about this, but uh, when I put out this, there were several videos I put out in March. It was like late March, and the spiritual prosperity videos, and those are going to be going up also on another platform pretty soon. And those videos, when I shot those, it was such a desire, number one, to do it, and I knew I was gonna pay for the videos to be done out of my own pocket. It's not like it wasn't for the church and it wasn't from some organization, but I was so guided to put them out there, and that meant hiring a videographer. That meant figuring out how to shoot it in the midst of COVID-19. But I was so guided to do it, and I had such a desire to get those videos out. And when I really looked, I was doing some meditation time, and when I really looked deeply at myself as to why I was doing it, I thought, worst case scenario, if I didn't live through this, what teachings would I want to leave? And that's what those videos are.
Hmm.
And I just, I barely looked at the videos since I've done them, but I know, and then I taught a class on them also. And I had no idea when I first made the videos, there was even going to be a class. I just was following that desire to do the videos because I thought, not everybody's going to hear me in a pulpit, but somebody might find me on YouTube. So maybe I need video. Called a couple friends, that are great videographers. And not only was that desire made manifest, as I said, it became videos. Those videos became a class. Now that class is going to be going out on a whole nother platform. So this is how desire moves us forward. It's a great question to be asking right now. What's mine to do? We did a whole show on that topic a couple weeks ago. What's mine to do? And desire is how you know. Desire is the thing you will be listening to help you know what is yours to do moving forward. So my prayer for you, dear friend, is that you join us in the work. I know you already are doing a lot of great spiritual work, but really get clear about your desires. I want to encourage you to go inward, to spend time seeing what is your motivation as you're moving forward on things. Are you really listening to that holy desire about what's yours to do? No, we are with you rather in this process. We are with you in this process. We see you loved, supported, and blessed, and it is our pleasure to be with you on this journey. And we are honored that you trust us and that you support us as we support you. So thank you for joining us today, dear friend. Blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by Natural Awakenings Magazine and Zen Living Realty. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, Arlene Meyer, Kathy and Terry, Marcia Mott, Nora Miles, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Susanna Garcia, Shayla Mount, Dorothy Moore, Aggie Payton, Taryn Tucker, and Anna Evans. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2020 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.